Go. Good evening to the Council of Elders, the Board of Directors, President Dr. Huberta Jackson Lohman, the Council of Past Presidents, the Student Circle, and members of the Association of Black Psychologists. You are members of a phenomenal organization, an unbelievable organization that was born in turbulent times. You were perhaps not aware that many people said that A.B. Psy would not last 50 years, but it did. In 1968, black psychologists were sick and tired of studying the white rat. They wanted to study white supremacy and ways of eliminating it. They wanted to study white racism, how to eliminate it, and how to provide for the liberation of black people. Now, when the historians write about the history of psychology, indeed they will have to include the names of Drs. Charles Thomas, Drs. Robert Guthrie, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Robert Williams, and Dr. Joseph White. Let me just tell you a little story about Dr. Joe White, one of our ancestors, truly a great black psychologist. In 1976, two young black men came to my door, rang the doorbell. When I went to the door and opened it, they said, "Joe White sent us." That's all they had to say, that Joe White sent us. It shows you the impact that Joe White has had on psychology this day. I let them in. One of the men was Dr. Thomas Parham, who will become the president of Cal State at Dominguez Hill July 1st. And the second was Dr. Larry Jackson, who went on to Michigan State to get a PhD. I'm happy to say that if it were not for A.B. Psy, I would not have become the black psychologist that I am today. A.B. Psy cut the path and the way for me to develop as a psychologist. Here are some of my legacies that I have left for you. I leave you the fact that I was one of the founders of A.B. Psy back in 1968. I was the second president of A.B. Psy. I leave you the fact that I developed the 10-point plan where I wrote to 300 colleges and universities asking them to admit black students. Doors were open at that time. Dr. Patricia Griffin of Arkansas and Dr. Harry Richards of Arkansas were two members who were admitted because of the 10-point plan. And your current president of A.B. Psy, Dr. Huberta Jackson Lohman, was also admitted by the 10-point plan. I leave you the bitch test, the black intelligence test of cultural homogeneity that opened many eyes about the cultural bias in psychological testing. I leave you Ebonics, which is a portmanteau, Portmanteaux, which means the combining of two words to make one. Ebonics is composed of ebony and phonics. Ebonics. It is defined as the African retention by black people of African languages. I leave you one of my books, Racism, Learned at an Early Age, or Racial Script Theory, of how white parents and media teach their children racism and negative things about black people. I leave you the history of the Association of Black Psychologists, which contains profiles of 43 outstanding black psychologists. These black psychologists would only have been a footnote in the history of psychology were it not for this book. This is our story, not his story. I leave you raising black children to be okay, how black parents need to look at establishing the identity of their black children. And lastly, I was married for 69.5 years to Miss Ava Lee Williams. She was one of the presidents of the St. Louis Association of Black Psychologists in the 80s. She is now an ancestor on June 15th, 2018. I hope that I have set a standard for many of you of marriage. Hopefully that some of you will break that standard of 69.5 years. But I leave you 3 principles of how we stayed marriage. 1, compromise. We were able to not feel that we were right all the time, but we compromised. Forgiving. We knew we were not perfect. We were able to forgive because strong people forgive and weak people are not able to forgive. And lastly, support. You must be able to support your mate throughout life. And lastly, I leave you my son, Dean Robert Williams, who is Associate Dean at San Francisco State. He will have some of my books for you to purchase. I leave you love. I leave you wisdom. And I leave you my memoir that will be published posthumously from the cotton shacks to the Cadillac. Alucia continua, the struggle will continue. Thank you very much.